Welcome. 3 stories about the system we trust to take care of us. 2 actually happened, 1 is completely made up. The catch? They're all written the same way, so you just can't go by how it sounds. You have to go by how it feels. Let's go.
Welcome back to Two Real, Two Truths and One Lie. 3 happened, 1 is made up. Your job is to figure out which one.
This week, every story is about the same thing. Systems we have set up to help us, algorithms we trust, automation we enable, and then something goes wrong. And we realize we have no control over what we thought we controlled.
And in every case, the question isn't just real or fake. The question is, when the system you trusted makes a mistake and somebody else gets hurt, who actually pays the price?
There's no right answers, just gut reactions. Let's get into it. And if you're new, as always, please subscribe now on wherever you're watching us. We do this every Monday, 2 real, 2 truths, and a lie. So we'll jump right into our first story this evening. Story 1. Am I the asshole for being angry that I had to rearrange my entire evening because my smart fridge delivered my mother's food to my house? I need to know if I'm overreacting. I'm 42 years old. My mother is 78. She lives alone about 45 minutes away. I help her with groceries because her mobility isn't great. So we set up a system. I have a smart fridge that auto orders my weekly grocery list every Monday at 9 a.m. It's delivered to my house Monday afternoon. I also have a delivery account set up for my mother's address. So every Monday at 10 a.m., her groceries get delivered there. I help pay for it. It's a system that works, or it worked until last Monday. Monday afternoon, I got home from work. There were 2 massive grocery deliveries on my porch. One was clearly mine, items I ordered. One was everything my mother ordered: frozen food, refrigerated items, fresh produce, things you need to stay cold. They've been sitting out on my porch in the heat for who knows how long. But here's the thing that made me panic. Part of my mother's order was her medication. She takes a medication that needs to be refrigerated. It's supposed to arrive Monday afternoon, so she'd have it for Monday night. It is now sitting on my porch in the heat, potentially compromised. I immediately called my mother. I can say that. I immediately called my mother. She said, my groceries didn't arrive. I said, they're here at my house, including your medication. She said, oh no, I need that tonight. What do I? So now my mother, who's 78 years old with mobility issues, expecting her weekly groceries, is just without her food. She is without her medication for the night. I called the delivery. They said, looks like there was a system error. The auto order for your mother's address was routed to your account. We can reorder and expedite it, but there will be a reorder fee. I asked how much. They said it would, and when it would arrive. They said $35 reorder fee, and it can't arrive until Tuesday afternoon. So my mother goes Monday night without her refrigerated medication is not okay. I did the math in my head, drive an hour and a half round trip, or pay $35 on top of groceries I already paid for, and my mother goes without her medication for a night. I was not willing to risk it. So I dropped everything, packed up these potentially compromised groceries and medications to drive the 45 minutes to my mother's house in evening traffic. I love my mother. I love visiting her, but that was not the evening I had planned. I had reorganized my evening because an algorithm couldn't route 2 orders to 2 addresses correctly, and because my mother's health depended on it. So I packed up the groceries, told my kids we were going to grandma's. I called my son's soccer coach and said he'd missed practice. I packed snacks for the drive and drove the hour and a half round trip to deliver her medication and groceries that were supposed to be at my mother's house automatically. When I got there, my mother was so grateful. She hugged me. I made sure she took all her medications, and we spent the time together. But my son was disappointed about missing soccer. I was overtired from the drive behind on her homework, and I was exhausted. I called the delivery company the next day and explained my mother needed the medication, and that I didn't have a choice, so I had to drive it to her. They said sorry for the inconvenience, and they gave me a $10 credit towards my next orders. So $10 for an hour and a half of my time, for me having to rearrange my children's schedule, for me having to drive in traffic, and my mom not actually getting, her order. And so yeah, reorder fee of $35 and a $10 credit. And my mother still didn't get her replacement medication until the next day. What kills me is I set it up specifically to avoid having to manually manage my mother's care. I set up automation so I wouldn't have to be the one coordinating it, especially for something as important as her medication. The system failed, and instead of the company taking responsibility, I had to become an emergency delivery driver. So, am I the asshole for being furious about this, for feeling like this system I trusted to help me actually save time and make things more efficient actually put my mother's health at risk?
So this isn't just about inconvenience anymore. This is about medication. This is about health. It's crazy when you rely on automation to do things that you think you're going to end up saving you time.
It is, it is. And a shout out to everybody here. Hello, Catrick O. What is that? Catrick O D3P. And we also have Lorraine Garcia 3995 joining us. Hello and welcome. It is frustrating. It is extremely frustrating to trust that what you've set up is actually going to work. Right. And I think that's one of my big, that just gives me the trauma of how I feel about what everybody's promising with AI. Right. And my own experience of how we put a lot of trust in something that doesn't deserve that trust.
True, but I'm like, was it an issue? All stuff was supposed to go to a different address, but then I guess it's depending where you are, things take different speeds of delivery. We know from like even manually ordering stuff like HelloFresh or whatever, those meal kits that get shipped to your house, that those are never on time, and sometimes the package is damaged. And that's us manually placing the order. So it's just we've been there sort of with the similar scenario. So
Well, this is worse though when there's medication, right? When there's medication, I would assume that prescription would have had a specific address. So whatever happened in the back end, you're like, that's not really okay, right? Because that, like, if somebody's really needs that and it's something super important, life or death, like really a big deal, getting their medication on time, you know.
well, this is just the convenience. Like the only there's negatives sometimes with when we rely on other people to deliver. So of course it
And
takes time.
the
You know,
systems, right?
this is why, and like in America, you've got like drive-through windows to pick up your meds because you have to put the onus on yourself to go get your stuff. But of course, convenience factor with this, ordering things to your own place, then it's
Well, in this case, her mom had mobility issues, so that makes it a little bit more difficult, right? So, I feel like there should be some more responsibility from the delivery company, especially with the medications. And it seems ridiculous that they didn't just waive the delivery fee and offer some kind of credit, but you know,
because you have to elevate that to a supervisor, and that takes more time on the phone, especially are you talking to a human when you call a number or talking to a robot? All that stuff takes time. Of course, she was calculating how much time it took her versus, she wasn't planning to do that in her schedule. But
well, it is, and it's an inconvenient, and it is a massive inconvenient because you have to reschedule whatever you had planned to then drop it to do that, especially in this case where it was time, how important it was for the time, right? So
exactly.
so the verdict overall, I think, matches with us because I'm assuming you're going to say not the asshole. I don't think she's the asshole. However, at some point, we kind of have to take responsibility that things don't work always. So we still have to check up on it every time. And when you get complacent, unfortunately, that seems to happen when we get complacent, is that'll be the one time it doesn't work, right?
Well, especially with delivery addresses, because I know we've had issue recently with Amazon. So it's she's not the asshole because she set this up for convenience, but you know that if things mess up, you're still the responsible human who has to make sure that your mother gets her groceries and gets her meds. And if they're
Exactly. And if something goes wrong, you unfortunately are gonna have to be the one that takes it, right? So overall was not the asshole. You did everything right. The system, you set up a system specifically to help manage your mother's care and the medications that failed. Your mother went, but you know, it's fair to be mad. It is, right? A little bit more people said that she needed to talk to somebody else because they didn't take responsibility, right, for a critical error, and that she should have pushed harder and pushed back a little bit more. One of the top comments is, this stopped being about inconvenience the moment medication was involved. And I think there is a valid point with that. Groceries, okay, whatever. You're not probably going to starve to death. You can probably find some solution to your groceries, right? Fairly easy, not necessarily as easily with the medication, right? So that is a valid point. And companies can't just shrug it off with errors that affect elderly people's health, right? So that needed to be reported. So that was just what people had commented on that. So that was story number 1. So drop it in the comments if you think it was real or fake, because one of these stories tonight is a deception. But let's go on. Are you ready for the next story, Mike?
let's get going.
Okay, let's jump into story number 2. Am I the asshole for being angry that the app pays me less because it knows I'm desperate? I'm a single mother with 2 kids. I drive for Uber and Lyft. It's flexible work. I can pick my kids up from school and work around their schedules. But it is also the only income I have. Over the last few months, I noticed something. The longer I've been on the apps, the longer it takes to reach $200 per day. So in the beginning, it took me 4 to 5 hours of driving. Now it takes me 7 to 8 hours. The same, making less per trip. I was suspicious and started looking online to see if anyone else had experienced it. And I found a report that stated that they had found that both Uber and Lyft tracked how often drivers accepted jobs and what wage. The app learns how much money you need to make, and then it uses the information to adjust your rates. If you accept lower paying jobs frequently, the algorithm decides you need the work. So it gives you lower paying jobs. The report gave an example. Gig nurses in the same hospital doing the identical shifts getting paid different amounts, not because experience or performance, but because the algorithm calculated how much each nurse needed to work. The nurses with fewer financial options got paid less. So that's me. I have no other income. The app knows I will accept lower paying work because I have to. So it offers me lower paying work. It's not a glitch, it's a feature. The algorithm is designed to find the minimum amount of money you'll accept without quitting. I tried to decline the lower paying rides to prove a point, but then my earnings dropped even more. The algorithm seemed to punish me for being selective. I have kids at home waiting for me. I can't afford not to work. So I accepted the lower paying rides, and the algorithm registers my acceptance. And the next week, the average pay per ride is even lower. It's a cycle. The app is literally profiting from my desperation. The companies call it flexibility. They call it gig work. They sold me on independence and control. What they actually did was build a system to measure my desperations and charge me for it. The more desperate you are, the less you make, and the less you make, the more desperate you become. So am I the asshole for being angry that I'm trapped in a system designed to exploit how much I need to work?
Okay, wow, that's a different type of story. um,
Well, okay, taking a step back, over the last number of weeks, we have been talking about employment and the whole AI thing and working against you on your resumes, whether it's ageism or whatever the reason is that you're scored low on your resume, and then it affects everywhere you apply, because literally it's like 2 companies that are using the same, that are developed AI, and they're all literally reporting the same thing. Doesn't matter what company you're applying through, right? So they're all using the same technology behind, which is scoring you. So is this even surprising? It's kind
well,
of not.
Well, not really surprising. It's just, and I know people who work at these companies, right? So I know what are like anybody I'm friends with, what their experiences have been doing it across different cities and states. So, but I don't have this experience. So, but I'm like, of course,
It just it feels so much like everything's a trap. They trap you no matter where you go, whether it's a job, whether it's having to apply online, and then you get this low score and you're trapped for like 330 days with that score, and we don't even know what that score starts from. Is it start from the time you upload your resume to the time you apply to a job or the last job? Like we are literally now working where the AI wants us to literally be like robots. It's so it is insane. I don't know. I find this crazy and creepy and disturbing because if it's not based on skill and it's not based on anything, it's just based on your desperation, how desperate you are. So the more desperate you are, the more you'll work for more poverty wages. Like that's awful.
And then if you don't accept their poverty wages, it's gonna like not send you jobs in the future.
That's flexibility.
Flexibility. That's just discerning. Hey, you were good with these lower than average paying gigs for a string of days because you got to pay your bills and feed your kids. So now that you say no, we're not going to even offer you any.
Like
Okay.
it's psycho. It is psychotic. It would seem like the whatever runs everything really doesn't like us. That is what you can see systemically through how technology is used is whatever overlapping does not like you the human.
And then
And it
and then
just
I'm
seems
like, and then I'm like, oh, the other part of that algorithm would be like, they're going to be obviously factoring in because any like the tipping portion, right? So I'm like, how complex is that algorithm based on all that data it's collecting on what jobs you'll accept versus like what people are actually leaving you for tips and things like that?
well, and it's such a weird control because now they control you that it's not a flexibility. You can't work harder to make more money. You can't take on more jobs to make more money. You that is socialism right there. You get paid this much and it's however many hours you're willing to put this much we're going to pay. If you want to do better and you're more desperate or you want to take a few more extra jobs,
You have
then
it, and this is that flexible job or gig work, so it's not supposed to be full time. So we know you're using it full time, so now we're going to penalize you.
it's interesting how all this technology comes back to not helping us, and that's a consistent thing that even out of convenience it doesn't even necessarily work, right? So overall, okay, what's your verdict? I'm definitely going to say she's not the asshole. However, this gives, I would say at the same time, she needs to now do something to break that cycle because now they've got the control grip. The system, the Uber, Lyft AI system controls and owns her soul. I would say that this is a good time for her to decide to do something different or start taking the steps of doing that, right?
You know what? I'd be like, go find something that's not electronically controlled, but I'm pretty sure all gig work economies are controlled by some app because it's not just like the Uber and the Lyfts. Like if you want to go do like, you know, other services are likely all controlled in some type of gig economy app algorithm ecosystem, right? So it's like, um, how can she
And that's a
even
good point. That's
like,
a very good
and how
point,
can
right?
she even escape the system? Because you would literally have to go. She got kids, so how are you going to go get a full time job? Because then that's when the daycare and all that whole financial aspect kicks in.
Well,
Anyway,
and you get a job, you also have to you apply your resume into the AI system, which is already
exactly.
grading you. And what if that AI is talking to the Uber AI? So
Oh,
it's already building a profile in the background because it knows you worked for it and you would work for that pay. So it's going to only present you to jobs that are going to pay you less. We don't even know where this stops, in honesty, which makes it
nice
terrifying.
story. Nice story.
So overall, the verdicts were not the asshole. You're not angry at the concept of gig work. You're angry because the system is designed to exploit you, which is fair, right? And it is. The algorithm is literally profiting off of your desperation, and you should be angry. And then there was a little bit of like the app companies are exploitive, and the fact that there is no other income options means they have complete leverage over you, just like we're saying, and that
Mhm.
is a failure both corporate responsibility and corporate responsibility, I can say that, and a failure of a system that leaves people without safety nets. So this isn't the top comment is it's not about flexible work. It's about an algorithm that has learned your financial vulnerability and is charging you for it every single day.
Yeah, that's a fun one. Okay.
Let's continue going into the third one. So again, keep in mind one of these stories is keep in mind, and let's go into the third story before we reveal that. So story number 3. Am I the ass furious that a surveillance camera was installed on my property without my permission? I found a camera on my property that I didn't put there. I'm a homeowner. I've lived in my home for 8 years. And one day I noticed a flock camera mounted on a pole near the edge of my property. I'd never given anyone permission to install it. I'd never been notified. It was just there. I called my city to ask what it was. They told me it was a public safety camera, part of a surveillance infrastructure initiative. The camera captures license plates and vehicle movements. The city says it's to fight crime. But I never consented to having a surveillance camera on my property. I was never asked and I was never notified. It was just installed. I called again and said, I don't want this on my property. Take it down. The city said, it's on the public right of way. So technically, it's not your property. But we understand your concern. There's a process to remove it, but it might take a while. Take a while meant months. And in the meantime, I'm living with a surveillance camera pointed at my house, capturing every vehicle that comes and goes, who visits me, when I leave, when I come home, all without my consent. I started researching what Flock does. Flock is a surveillance company that departments and city governments. They install cameras and capture license plates and run them through databases. If your plate matches a hit, which could be anything from a stolen car to a wanted person, the system automatically alerts law enforcement. So now every time I drive away from my house, my license plate is being captured and scanned. Every time a family member or friend visits, their plate is captured and scanned. I didn't agree to this. I never asked for it. It was just installed. What killed me is when I asked the city about the installation process. They said it happens all the time. They install the infrastructure first, then debate the right issues later. This is how surveillance states gets built. Not with permission, not with transparency, just infrastructure goes up, rights are debated after. I finally got my camera removed after months of calls and complaints, but now I am aware that my city is installing surveillance infrastructure on properties without owner consent, capturing people's movements and license plates and calling it public safety. So am I the asshole for believing I have the right to know what surveillance is happening around my home, for demanding consent before my movement and my visitors' movements are tracked?
This reminds me of being in Dubai, where everywhere you go, there's cameras everywhere. I don't think she's the asshole at all because that is creepy, and I would not agree to that.
The
Um,
fact that she just shows up at home and it's installed is mind
well,
blowing.
I'm like, are they doing a sting operation right in her neighborhood?
At her own house is like really like that's insane, right? And these are going up, and the fact that we the system cares so little about you that it's going to infringe on your rights and on your property, and then you can fight it after the fact. And if you don't have the financial means or the rigor or the gust and can just push and fight, you will be stuck with it. They're gaming that you don't have the money, you don't have the time, you give up before. And that's how the surveillance system is going to get in place. It's not because we consented to it. It's because a lot of people will just give up when they're told whatever, right? They're not going to push. There is very few people that will really push against the system. They'll try to break you financially, mentally, emotionally, whatever it is first, right?
It reminds me of the Super Bowl commercial this year, where I don't know, I can't remember which camera company it was, but it was like this. Oh, if you lose your dog in your neighborhood, like all these cameras talk to each other, and we'll be able to find your lost dog. And then they had a, I don't know if they've changed that. Obviously, whatever manufacturers installed AI software on all these, you know, cameras that the public doesn't know about, and it's like, hey, we've got this awesome new feature for you to find your lost things. And it's like, okay, so you could literally remote access all the cameras that you manufacture and look for stuff, right?
And
So
they
they
can
touted it as
install them wherever they want without you even knowing. So literally, you can go to bed, it can be installed at night, or you could go to work and come home, and it's installed on your property,
that was
and you
all.
and you don't have any say.
And that was always the thing that creeped me out when people get these, like, Alexa cameras or whatever brand of cat. They're like, oh, nanny cam that's connected to the cloud. I'm like, so literally anybody can like do, like, yes, that
And this,
is
I think this comes. Sorry, I think this comes back to a concept I was talking about last night in the weekly energy. Or no, not last weekend. The honestly though on Thursday night, which was about when you know something, you have the responsibility because these actions are going to greatly affect the coming generations. Like this is not a reality we grew up with. Right. And this is
Mhm.
going to greatly affect our daughter and then her children and everybody going forward. And it's something we're not even actively consenting to. We're literally being forced through them pushing this. And the fact that they don't have to ask for permission and then you have to fight is absolute, again, another mind blowing. Like it is mind blowing because this stuff could be used to really help us, but it's like legitimately used to keep us in a cage. It's insane. It is really insane. So definitely I agree, not the asshole. The comments were that she had every right to know what surveillance infrastructure is opening around her home, every right to consent or refuse. And the city violated that and you were right to push back. There was one of the big things was the cities have a responsibility to inform residents about surveillance infrastructure, and residents have the responsibility to engage in their city governments. So both are failing here. Who knows if she was even well? And you can't think in that point fail if you don't even know what's happening. Right. So you can't even show up and petition against your government or your city or whatever if you don't even know what's happening. Right. So that's another point on that. But one of the top comments were we need to stop building infrastructure first and asking permission later. That's how we end up with a surveillance state that nobody actually agreed to.
No one agreed to it, but the government is implementing it regardless if you agree to it, because it's like push, 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 and see if anybody fights back.
Yep. Exactly. And they do game that we're tired, we're exhausted, and this is what I was really attempting to persuade in the honestly though on Thursday was when you know something, you now have a responsibility to do something about it. Whether you know exactly what to do and what the right steps are at that moment, you might not. You might not have full clarity of what you need to do, but you need to know you need to do something about it. So you need to like talk about it. You need to keep it in your mind. You need to remember and not go back into that complacency that they're doing it for your good when they're literally choosing to. Well, first off, you got corporations choosing. Let's go through those stories. Story one, you've got like just straight up technology makes mistakes to begin with. So, which is also detrimental. So, medication is sent to the wrong house, which is detrimental because it needs to be refrigerated. So, straight up, we already have, without even adding any maliciousness into it, basic technology messes up. Then story two, you've got the gig that is watching you and your desperation. So it's going to literally pay you less and less and less because you're not, because it's going to take advantage of how desperate you are, right? So that is, again, that does not show that it works for humanity and for the benefit of us. And then story three, literally the city, the community, government, whatever can go and put stuff on your property without your approval and then ask for forgiveness or take you through courts, or you are taking them through courts to fight after the fact. That again is not demonstrating this is being used to help us in any way, shape, or form. But those are the stories. I will let you jump on, Mike.
Okay, so you just went over all three. So let's lock it in. Which two are real, one's false? If you're new, subscribe now. We do this every Monday.
Exactly. And I just had to because it was just part of my rant. It just all fit.
I know that's fine. I just normally I do the three stories, but you did an amazing job, and I'm like, I think all three of these are true. So it's a tough one.
It's a tough one. Yes. Lock it in. Which one do you guys think is the true versus the false one? And so put that in, lock it in. What's your gonna guess, Mike? Which one are you gonna guess? You gotta guess one.
I know I gotta guess one. I'm just gonna do a story one because it's a smart fridge, and I know they're out there, but I'm just gonna forget that they're out there. It wouldn't do this, right?
So you're saying story one is fake.
Exactly. I'm saying story one is fake because I'm assuming the other two are real, but I could be wrong. So let's do it.
We've got a guess from Mind Mystique is guessing number two. Okay. So let's reveal which one is fake. Do a little drum roll for me, please.
If you can hear it.
And the deception. Story one was a lie. You were right. That was the one that was the least detrimental. Really, was actually the fake one today.
Well, as I said, I know Uber and Lyft drivers who've been doing it long term because they were kind of whatever their life story is. They're doing it long term. I've heard this. I'm like, come on. Some cities have had cameras, and if you don't think they're tracking you, then they're just gonna say it's public. It's public. It's in public. It's public.
It's public interest. It's safety. It's all about your safety because you can't survive by yourself. It's amazing you've made it this long. It's amazing we haven't bubble wrapped you. It's amazing you survived the time of lawn darts and the walkers that had the wheels, Mike. The smoking indoors when that was normalized.
Smoking on planes. Yeah.
It's amazing. Well, if we summarize it up, the smart fridges do have an auto order feature. Multi-account delivery systems do exist and routing glitches are real. Medication in grocery orders is also real, and people do get medications delivered through these services. So everything was based on technology that actually exists, but we did not find a specific case and where this actually happened yet. So it is real, but that is the fictional story.
That's right. Just wait till next week, right?
Exactly. I actually said that about that. I'm seeing stories that I'm pretty sure I made up that are now coming to light as being real, or that I had talked about doing as a fake story that I'm like, oh, I didn't do as a fake story, and now I'm hearing it as a real story. But story two is real. The Washington Center for Equitable Growth published research showing that Uber and Lyft track how often drivers accept jobs and at what wages, and then they use that data to find your breaking point. Gig nurses in the same hospitals doing the same shifts get paid different amounts based on how much the algorithms think they need the work. This is documented and it is happening. And then story three, which is also completely real. And this is that Roanoke, because I said when we were talking about going through Roanoke, That was a Roanoke homeowner discovered a flock surveillance camera installed on her property without notification or consent. And then that flock camera captures license plates and runs them through the databases. And the city's policy is literally install first, debate rights after. And there's multiple cities that are doing this infrastructure, and that is actually happening right now. So the scariest part is stories that are real. I kind of wish weren't. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and okay, I remember you saying something about Roanoke, and I'm like, and then my comment to you about Virginia was, I'm like, I think home of the most data centers of any U.S. state. So of course,
Maybe there's a connection there. Maybe that's just an interesting coincidence, just to put it out there.
exactly. So we've spent the last hour talking about systems. Smart homes, algorithms, automation, artificial intelligence, AI or IA, whatever you want to call it. Everyone, it's a joke. It's a joke, people. Every one of them was designed to make life easier. And yet, every story tonight came back to the same question: what happens when the system makes a decision you didn't expect? Because none of the people in these stories were ever careless. They were simply trusting systems that promised to help them. The reality is, technology keeps getting smarter. Sure, it does. Which means people have to become more discerning. That's a skill we believe matters most moving forward.
And that is exactly why we built the strategic timing and visibility system. So it's not to give you more information. You've got lots of information, and we've got more than we can probably ever consume in our own lives, right? So we built this to help people recognize patterns before they become problems, to understand timing to understand and ask better questions, and to make better decisions, and then to actually take action.
Everything we do starts with our free Gold membership. Gold is where we share our monthly strategic timing guide, important astrology and numerology dates, reminders for all four of our weekly live shows, and the patterns we're watching together. Not just in astrology, but in technology, world events, artificial intelligence, and the changes shaping all of our lives. Because our goal isn't simply to help people collect information, it's to help people become harder to mislead.
Harder to mislead, right? Whether you found us through astrology because you're trying to understand what's happening in the world, or because you're building a business, or because you're just simply trying to make some better decisions, the question is always the same. Now that you know, which is what we were talking about, what are you going to do? And that is what our Gold membership is for.
There's another pattern running through every story tonight. The people building these systems have visibility. They shape conversations, they influence millions of people. And if you're building something that generally helps people, your voice deserves to be found too. And that's where the visibility engine comes in. Because visibility isn't about becoming famous, it's about helping the right people discover the work you're here to do. One decision, one system, one video, one improvement at a time.
Everything we teach comes back to the same four ideas: understand the timing, recognize the pattern, develop discernment, and take action. Because information does not change your life. Your decisions do, and those actions. So if you'd like to continue the journey with us, join our free Gold membership at breathewithinyoga.com. We'd love to have you there and join us with this. So you can get started there, as well as on the IamYouTubeFamous.com.
And that's exactly why we have 4 live shows every week. They're not 4 separate shows. They're 4 steps in the same journey. On Sunday nights, 7 to 11 p.m. Eastern, every Sunday, Julianne hosts our weekly energy overview. And that's where we look at the week ahead through astrology, numerology, and collective timing so you understand the conditions. And Monday nights, like tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, live with 2 real, 2 truths, 1 lie. And that's where we examine technology, AI, automation, and the systems shaping our future. Not to tell you what to think, but to help you develop discernment in a rapidly changing world. Thursday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern, you're here with us for Honestly Though. That's where we step back, connect the patterns, explore what's happening in the world, how it connects to the bigger picture, and ask the most important question: what
What
are
are we gonna do
we going to do
different?
differently because of it? All right.
I was trying to say it with you. You were supposed to keep talking.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I thought it was
I
echo.
just wanted to emphasize that.
Uh,
Continue.
okay. And then, of course, Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, we teach Visibility University because ideas only change the world when people can actually find them. Whether you're building a business, a message, or a mission, we help you build the systems that make your work easier to discover. It's all about distribution.
Yes, it is. Every week follows the same journey. Understand the timing, recognize a pattern, develop discernment, take action, which is our current distribution cycle. So because the world isn't slowing down, because technology isn't slowing down, and AI isn't slowing down. So the question isn't whether the systems around us are going to keep changing because they're going to. The question is whether we're going to learn to see clearly enough to make good decisions anyways. And that's what we're here to help. So, with that, we will see you next time. We'll be live on Thursday for our Honestly Though, where that is, like I wanted to highlight, that is where we really look and go, now that you know, what are you going to do differently? So, really kind of highlighting how the energy is flowing and what is being presented to us. So, we will see you Thursday for our next live. So, make sure you do join us, subscribe, make sure you join our gold. And whenever we're on that, I'm going to head out. Have a great night. Bye.
Bye.